All right. I'm going to do my very best to make this not very long. So the goal is brief, concise, and to the point. What we're doing here right now is going to lay out some of my theological understanding of our experience as human beings. As I have previously alluded to, my certain belief that the ancient stories, the myths are real, the gods are real. I also sometimes tap into the Christian viewpoint for allegory and understanding. So I'm going to lay out my understanding. That way we're on the same page. That way, if you hear me talk about certain things, you want to understand and you don't think I'm contradicting myself. Okay, first of all, there is the all, right? This encompasses everything. We'll put some stars out around it. The all, the ever expansive everything. Okay? Recently I've heard this referred to as the monad, right? You'll see that around. And from a biblical perspective, this would also be what people are referring to as God. Okay? God is everything. The monad, the all. And where things begin to get tricky is our physical world, right? Because that's where people have those never-ending questions about why things work this way. If God is everything and all loving and all caring, why do I have this kind of experience? And that is because the all is not exactly responsible for the physical universe. Okay? You see, the physical universe was crafted by this sub creature, this, we'll give him sharp teeth. Forgive me, I'm not a great illustrator. But I'm going to draw wings on him too. So this creature is confused and believes that he is God, okay? Very confused, almighty, celestial being, right? He thinks he's God and he has created this world, all right? And that is what draws the line between our understanding. Now, before we dive into some of the specifics, we'll put out some differences, right? So, the all is, it encompasses, okay, truth, right? Truth, freedom, family, things of that nature. And now, this creature of the physical world, the physical world can be defined by corruption, okay? Greed, lust, fear, and limitation. Okay? Here in the physical world, that is what many people believe rules over them, is their limitations. But the truth is, you are limitless. All right? And how and why are we limitless? Why? Because we are of the all. We are of the monad. We are of God. Okay? And this realm also, here, this is where the gods reside. The gods are the powerful forces of our physical universe, right? They control things beyond our ability to use our willpower to manipulate. Wind, waters, so on and so forth. And in a way, they curtail our storylines. But here's the thing. Somewhere along the lines in this physical universe, now, still we have to understand that the all is everything. So even though this sub wannabe god made the physical world, pretending to be the all-powerful creative being, he still had to use the materials, the source energy of the all. So that's another good thing, you know. You hear that too. Source, aka creative energy. So he still had to use God's creative energy to make the universe. Okay? And that is why you see some of the monad or God in everything. Okay? That is why the earth is alive. That is why there's a inherent connection between us and all the plants and animals and even the sedentary things like rocks, because there is a portion of this creative source of energy that is God, the monad, everything inside all of this physical universe. And what I believe happened, and this is why I love the different creation myths. My favorite being the one from the Greek lore of Prometheus and how he gives man fire and how we come from out the caves and dominate the world. Perhaps because the source of all creation, God, if you will, saw what this I don't want to call it a deity, a being, this wannabe God created, and maybe he felt responsible, or perhaps he looked in and wanted to do something about it. So God hid himself. Oh, maybe I shouldn't use purple because that's the gods. Excuse me for I'm kind of particular. So God then hides himself within mankind. Okay? And this is what I believe the allegory of being gifted fire. Right? Because obviously fire is the one element that we were given, but it's also the light within. That's what separates human beings from everything else on the planet. And that is why it's very, very particular. You have to understand that it's not about worshiping the gods. It's about striving against them. You understand? Because the gods, they don't care about us in the way that the Creator does. Okay? To us, the gods, we are playthings, right? Because you have to understand that people, they try to criticize the idea of the gods, but the gods are great, right? Because they're egotistic. They care about themselves. They're immortals, right? So they don't have morals. They don't care about the idea of morality. They can do whatever they want because they're gods. And a lot of times, perhaps they have something against you or against people you know, or perhaps you're just a casualty to part of their grand schemes against one another. But the point is, they're always going to be trying to put things in your path to stop you from ascending. Okay, because this is what makes man special. This is what people have to understand, is because man has the potential to be greater than the gods. And this can be seen in every tradition, from the Greek ideals all the way over to modern Buddhism. Okay? I never forget a woman asking me that question. I was in Nepal, about 22 at the time, and she was so curious as why would the gods, even though they're up in heavenly plane, why would they see our state as better? It's because we have infinite potential, if that's the right word. Forgive me if you hear my kids screaming downstairs. Now, because this is what happened, right? And this is why the source of all creation is, again, so epic. Because imagine having the power to do anything and everything, always, all the time, whenever you wanted, right? At some point, that is going to get boring. So, again, everything I'm saying in terms of why God has done this is speculation, here or there. The simple fact is that he has. But what I'm saying is, it's like God wanted to forget. Okay? God wanted to forget what it was like to just poof, have anything you want whenever you want it. Do whatever. Create this, create that. So God hid himself in the heart of man. Okay? And he gave man the task to remember. Okay? That is what we are here to do. We are here to remember that we are not in limitation, that we are not based in fear. Lust is not for us. Greed and corruption. These are all the forces of this sub-wannabe God. These are the forces that this sub-God uses to keep you trapped in the physical plane. You understand? This is also, all of this is what purports. Oh man, I didn't even say that right. Incarnation. This is what perpetuates reincarnation. These things. Okay? And this is just a very brief list. Obviously, I feel like if you have any intelligence, you can understand what else is going to be grouped in there. But when you fall victim, allow yourself to fall victim to these things and the other things related to it, when you die, you reincarnate and you come back to the physical plane. Okay? Because the goal, again, is to remember that you are of God, of source of all creation. You are of truth, freedom, family, and you are limitless. Okay? And this, my friends, this is how the Buddha became legend, right? Because he transcended all these things and realized that he wasn't a part of all this, that he was actually above. This is the idea. It's kind of become a little, I don't want to say overused, but to remember truthfully in its fullness is to be enlightened, right? That is the journey of enlightenment, is remembering who you are, where you come from, the truth of our being, okay? And the Buddha is probably the second most famous, I would imagine. But again, Jesus Christ. This is where his story is so important, because he also, this is what he talked about. This is a man of truth. This is a man who did not submit to the illusion. Understand this, what I'm talking about right here, because a lot of people, they reference it, and I feel like they try to use it sometimes as a means to their own ends. Maybe people don't always understand. But what I'm talking about here, this is why Jesus was quoted as saying things like, my Father's kingdom is not of this world. Okay? Because he understood that there is a sub-being that crafted this world that puts all of these things in our way to try to stop us from ascension. Okay? Because this right here, this is the being people are calling the devil. Okay? This would be the devil and this would be God, right? This would be good and this would be evil. This is going to be light. This is darkness. Okay? And we come out of the darkness into the light and we ascend. We ascend even beyond the gods to the realm of true creation. This is how we stop the cycles of reincarnation, as we remember and we become one with the Creator. All right, this, my friends, perhaps the most important thing we can say here now in this segment, this is the battle. This is the war. Right? Forget geopolitics, party lines, and perhaps even nationalities. All right? The war is between truth and freedom versus corruption and greed. Those who worship the physical and their desires versus those who need nothing because they know they come from everything, the truth. Those who will ascend. Okay, and that's another really important thing to put in here. Reincarnation is equal to desires. Okay? Because that's what all this stuff is. All of these things are born out of desire. And that, I'm going to give it a little bit of name, like we've already talked about. The darkness, evil, the devil, as biblical people call it. But something I've heard recently is the demiurge. Forgive me if I spell this wrong. But this is what this being, the demiurge, wants. It wants you to fall into desires. Whether you desire vast quantities of wealth, whether you desire endless pleasures, and even desiring perhaps this convoluted idea of success so much that you're afraid it won't happen for you. Okay? And these things lead to corruption and limitation. All right? And that is how we continue in this cycle of reincarnation. We continue coming back to the earth in different life forms to try to free ourselves from this, to remember that we are divine in nature, that we are actually born in truth, that we are born limitless. This is why the masters were able to perform miracles, right? Because they were not limited. They had freed themselves from limitation. They had made themselves one with the Creator. They had remembered. And this is the understanding of how and why Jesus Christ is God. Okay? Because he broke the chains and remembered. Okay? Because, and that was his message was so beautiful, in the fact that he would tell people that there was nothing different between he and everyone else, that everyone was capable, because he knew that God come to earth as all man. Right? But again, that's the most beautiful part of it all, isn't it? Is that as man, you have free will. Okay? Because the God being, true God, doesn't see any fun in just making you be greater. He wants to give you the choice. All right? And at every stage of your life, he's always giving you signs and opportunities and trying to lead you to the way, the truth, and the life. But many people fall victim to these forces. They fall to their desires. Okay? And this is what holds us down. This is what weighs us down. All right? And also it ties into that idea, the hermetic idea of making your heart as light as a feather. Right? Because when you become limitless, when you live in truth, there is no more weight on your soul. You are ascended. You will ascend past the realm of the gods into infinity. So, this is the basis of essentially our human experience. And I'm really happy to get to share this with you. And I wanted to put it out there simply because I'm going to be talking a lot about theology and different things. Basically, everything I go on and on about, from geopolitics to interpersonal relationships to religion to theological ideas, philosophy, it all is going to circle back into this, right? This, in the most elementary whiteboard way, is our experience as human beings. Okay, we have truth and divinity planted within us, but it is our responsibility to remember and embody that truth. Right? It's not enough to say you know. It's not enough to say I understand ideologically. You have to be. Right? Here's the biggest thing. Yes. Because this is what Demiurge wants. This is what the devil, the darkness wants. It wants you in constant flux, constant chasing. I got to get more money, more sex. I got to get more. I got to eat more. I got to do this. Go. And that's that crippling anxiety people feel you have to do. But what does the God, the monad, the all, the source of creative energy call for? Be still. Okay? Stillness is the place where you will go beyond an ideological understanding and you will realize it experientially. You will be still and know that I am God. Okay? This is there for you always. The stillness of the moment is there for you always. The creative source energy, the all, the monad, God is there for you always. Have no fear. Be still and know. So, my friends, it is with the fullness of my heart that I hope this is clear and easy to understand. And perhaps we will find each other in the stillness. Okay? Until next time, peace be with you. Be still, my friends.